Whenever I do a training video, one of the most common things that I have people ask me is, what am I supposed to do if my dog isn't motivated by food? How am I supposed to train them? Yes, yes, yes. So you're probably wondering, what is he feeding these dogs? What is this magical treat that he's giving them to get them to behave so well? And to be honest, this is just kibble. This is actually Annie's kibble. All of them are just having a little bit of it. And that's all I will usually use in training. Sometimes I might throw a bit of hot dogs or cooked meat into the mix, but usually the dogs are just eating their daily food. So whether your dog's kibble fed, whether your dog's raw fed, whether your dog's wet food fed, obviously raw and wet food, you're going to want to use gloves, but all I'm using is this. So another question that people are going to come up with is, well, my dog isn't motivated by food, or when I go out and try and train them, they don't take food. The short answer to that is going to be, well, don't worry about it. Just keep doing your training and just use positive reinforcement through verbal communication and a little stroke on the head. If your dog wags their tail when you stroke them, or you say, "Oh, good dogs," and they get happy, like Bay is wagging her tail there, well, that is positive reinforcement. The dog is finding some pleasure in the communication that you're giving them, so just use that in the short term. Obviously, long term, what you want to do is you do want to build that food motivation, you do want to build that food drive, and the absolute best way to do it is just to stop feeding your dog from a bowl, stop giving your dog loads of treats, stop giving your dog loads of opportunities to have food outside of training. All I do to build motivation and food drive in a dog is I just always have food on me. I will always offer it to that dog in training and just through the general things that we do day to day. Just like Annie, when he first came to me, he wasn't taking this food from my hand. That's probably because he was a little bit stressed with the new environment, a new person, and new everything. Annie, come. Good boy, yes. And now he's very happy to take his food, and he's just hanging out, and this is great. So now I can actually use food to positively reinforce him. Food is better than giving praise and giving affection, for sure. So you do want to build that food motivation, but honestly the best way to do it is just always have some food on you, always offer it to the dog. But if they refuse to take the food from you during training, don't force it. Don't keep trying to shove it in their face. If they're doing all of this and trying to move out of the way, you really mustn't force it, because what you will start doing there is creating a negative association to food. Food then becomes an annoyance, something that the dog's trying to avoid, so it's the complete opposite to what you want to do. If I ever offer the dog food in training and they turn their nose up, I just don't offer it to them for another couple of minutes, and then I might offer it to them again. And if they've refused me maybe 2 or 3 times in a session, I'm going to write off food in that session, and I'm not going to offer it to them anymore, because I really don't want to build a negative association to the food during training. So what you've got to do is you've got to weigh out their daily food allowance, you've got to put it in a bag, you've got to have that bag with you at all time, and there is absolutely no limit to how many times you can offer the dog food. If the dog does anything that you like, offer them some food. If they sit at the door, give them some food. If they come over to you to put their collar on, offer them some food. So absolutely anything that the dog does that you like the look of, you should just offer them some food. And like I say, if they're going to refuse it, just don't be a pest, don't annoy them with it, just keep going and keep offering it at different points throughout the day. Eventually the dog will get hungry, eventually the dog's going to take food from you. So what you're not doing is starving your dog. You're not going to just be refusing to give them food and hoping that they get so hungry that eventually they take food from you. You're always offering them food, but it's up to them to make the choice to take it from your hand as soon as they realize that that's the only opportunity that they're going to get now moving forward to get food. Once you get that nailed into the dog and they realize that their only way to get food is through you, then you have a food motivated dog, then you can really use it in your training. So what I'm going to show you guys now is a little training session that I actually did with Anakin when he first arrived. It was his second day, he was still a little bit nervous. We definitely weren't best buddies as we are now, and he wasn't taking food, but I continued with the training session. We still worked on how to walk nicely on a lead. With verbal praise and a little bit of affection, we got it done. So you'll see that now, and I'll be back in a bit. So I'm going to draw backwards, I'm going to give him a little bit of pressure on the lead. Yes, bud? I'm going to offer him some food, and he's actually refusing to take food. So that is absolutely fine. I thought he ate that piece before, but he didn't. You want this, bud? Sit. So he is spitting the food out. So that's absolutely fine. So when you have a dog that doesn't want to eat, there could be a couple of different reasons why. I would assume that Anakin's reason is that this is the second day that I've had him, so he's still going to be a little bit nervous, he's still going to be a little bit unsure. So just because he's not eating, it doesn't mean I'm not going to train him. I'm still going to train him. There are many other ways to provide positive reinforcement other than food. In this case, I'm just going to say good boy when he does good, and I'm going to have a nice, happy, smiley, inviting face. I'm going to give him that nice tone of voice that he understands, means that he's doing well, and I'm going to keep moving. This way. Good boy. Good boy. This way. Good boy. This way. Good boy, Anakin. Good. So as you can see, I'm just going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Then what I'll start doing is I'll start going this way. And then I'm gonna start going around in circles. Good boy. Moving a bit faster. Good boy. Good boy. This way. A little bit of lead there just to help. Let's go, bud. Yeah, good boy. Good boy, bud. So we're gonna walk backwards this way. And then we're going to turn, and now we're walking. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, good job, mate. Good job. And then at this point, all you're trying to do is when the dog gets a little bit far ahead, just put a little bit of pressure backwards. If you stop when you put backward pressure on, usually the dog's going to stop. The main reason why I see people's dogs not stopping when they put back pressure on is because they're putting back pressure on and they're still moving at the same time. So remember that what you're trying to do is you're trying to make everything be as simple for the dog to understand as possible. So for you to put back pressure on the dog's lead, expecting them to slow down, but you are still walking forwards, that is very difficult for the dog to understand. You will get to that point, but that is more towards the end product, when your dog actually understands what back pressure means and when you want them to stop. So at this point, we're really trying to break it down for the dog and make it super, super simple. So what you do is when you put that back pressure on, you have to either slow down or stop yourself so that the dog can then see that you're changing in your behavior, so then they can match it with theirs. If you're just trying to pull that lead and expecting the dog to understand, you're always going to find some difficulties there because they're just not going to get it. So at this point, it's all about making it super, super easy for them to understand. So for example, now, if I turn this way, I want him, yeah, good boy. I'm going to make it super obvious so you'll notice as well, when I'm turning quite dramatically. So I'm not just turning like, you know, I'm turning and I'm almost like ushering him round with my turn. So I'll go this way, yeah, and almost inviting him to turn with me. This way, good boy. And if I want him to stop, I'll just put that backward pressure on first and then I'll stop. Then I go this way so I can walk into him. And I'm really trying to not use this lead if I can help it. Good boy. Nice, bud. Good job. Good job. This way. Good. Very good, Anakin. Very good, bud. Very good. And then if I stop, good boy. Good boy. So all of this stuff is what you want to practice with your dog. And what I've just done here is I'm in a small area. It's boring. It's just me and Anakin in here right now. There's nothing around. This is your garden. This is your driveway. This is your living room. This is wherever you want it to be, but somewhere that you're not going to be interrupted by external distractions. It's really important that before you go to a different environment or you add different distractions, you are making sure that this part of the process is 10 out of 10. So you really want to see that when you move, the dog, good boy, moves with you immediately. When you turn, he turns with you immediately. And when you stop, he stops with you immediately. Good boy. That's what you really, really want to see. And if that's not 10 out of 10, you're not ready to go somewhere else. If it is 10 out of 10, you can then go to, if it was in your back garden, you can then go to your front garden. If it was your front garden, you can then go onto the pavement outside your front garden. Then what you want to do is you want to just revisit the steps and do it again until it becomes 10 out of 10 in that area, and then 10 out of 10 in areas therefore after. Usually what's going to happen is the dog is going to get distracted, but if you know that something is 10 out of 10, that is the moment where you can use a little bit more lead pressure, you can be a little bit more firm to then apply a correction to the dog. But at this point, super early on, you really want to minimize the amount of corrections. And if you just go straight from putting a slip lead on or whatever lead on your dog, whatever collar you've decided to use on your dog, and you leave your house and you go straight into that park, your dog isn't going to understand what you want them to do, because you haven't spent the time to explain it, you haven't spent the time to make it super, super clear to them. And what is going to happen is they're going to fly to the end of the lead, they're going to be corrected by you or themselves, and depending on the piece of equipment that they're wearing at the time, they're either going to desensitize to that equipment, or they're going to have a really hard time, you're going to freak them out, and then you're probably going to take that equipment off and never use it ever again. So whatever you've put on your dog, take your time, just chill, there's no rush. I've got Anakin for 3 weeks, so this is what we're going to be doing for the first week, is we're just going to be walking around. I'm going to be giving a tiny little bit of pressure. I've just got my finger, index finger on the lead, little bit of pressure. Anakin, call his name. Good boy, bud. Nice job, mate. Lots of positive reinforcement. Give him a little bit of affection. This way, bud. Good boy. Yeah, bud. Nice job, mate. Good boy. And we're just going to do that over and over and over again. And what I'll start to see with Anakin is he'll start to open up. He'll start to relax. He'll start to fall into this nicer state of mind, calmer state of mind. He'll probably then start taking food from me, which is going to be amazing. So there you go, guys. It's easily done. And as you've seen at the start of this video, Anakin is now taking food from me. So it just took a couple of days for him to realize that that was the only time he's going to get food. And now we're absolutely flying in our training because he's taking food. So basically, whatever your dog finds reinforcing, you can use in your training. You can say, good dog. You can give them a little stroke on the head. You can give them food if they want to take food. The one thing that I wouldn't do, and what I don't generally like to do for certain things, especially how to walk nicely on a loose lead, is using a toy. I don't like to use a toy when I'm, excuse you, I don't like to use toys when I'm trying to teach a dog to be calm on a loose lead, because the toy brings way too much excitement to that thing that we're trying to teach. It goes completely against what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach the dog to be calm. So if we then bring a toy out, the dog then goes crazy, crazy, crazy for the toy. You've then got to get it back off of them. And then they're in this heightened state of arousal when you're trying to teach them to walk calmly. So it kind of doesn't really work for that thing. I will use toys for recall and other activities that might require the dog to be a little bit more energetic, or that's just okay for them to be a little bit more energetic. But anything that I'm trying to teach the dog to be calm with, I'm generally not going to use a toy as a reward. So that would generally be how to walk nicely on a lead and how to settle on a place or in a crate. I'm not going to use the toy as a reward for those things, because it just goes completely against what we're trying to do. So verbal praise, little bit of affection, food. When you get that food motivation, you have to be really stubborn. You have to make sure that you're just offering the food as many times as you possibly can a day. And if the dog isn't taking it, eventually they will. So yeah, anyway, good luck with that, guys. I'll see you in a bit.